I really like the way it looks on YouTube, so anybody can join, and it's got live questions and everything. So it's gonna, I think that'll be awesome going forward. All right, um, Jason, I think we're not going to be able to stream more than one service at this moment. So I think you may have shared the YouTube link, possibly.
Yes, I did share the YouTube link, so it's up now, and then people could post questions on Facebook if they were.
Yep, absolutely great, great. So I've got, I see we got a few people already jumping in on YouTube and got some folks looking in. So that's
Excellent.
that's awesome. Okay, all right, good deal. Well, just to go ahead and get started, thank you for everybody and anybody who's watching. Welcome to the Johnston County Beekeepers Association February 2021 meeting. As many of you know, we're still working virtually and overcoming the hurdles of COVID 19. So until then, we're going to continue meeting in this format and hope with new state mandates, we'll be back in person soon. So, once again, thank you to all of our members for your patience and going through this journey with us. In the meantime, we did want to cover a little bit of our housekeeping items before we turn over. We have a great speaker today. His name is Mr. Doug Vincent, and Dr. Doug Vinson, excuse me. He's the president of NCSBA, and he has a great presentation today for everybody. So I hope you have some questions available. If you do, just please drop them in the YouTube comments, drop them in the Facebook comments. Somewhere, somehow, you can reach out, and we'll make sure your question gets answered. In the meantime, our housekeeping items pertain to we have decided we want to do a B school this year, folks. So if you know anybody or if there's anyone that's interested in doing so, learning, catching up on some basics, maybe just refreshing themselves on beekeeping 101, we have that beginner beekeepers class coming available, and it should be March 9th, and we'll be that'll be Mr. Al Hildreth. He does a great job. He's been teaching it for a few years now, and an absolutely phenomenal job. So if you're interested, you know anybody that's interested, please relay the message to him. It will primarily be through Zoom. So this is something we're going to have to continue doing in all areas. And if I'm not mistaken, we will be giving the written exam in person. It'll just be staggered until everyone is taking the exam. So more than likely, you'll get scheduled to come in and take the exam to get certified with the state. So, keep that on your calendar, March 9th. Be on the lookout. Emails, anything, flyers should be coming out soon. So pass the word along to anybody interested. And next thing, we do want to say a little bit about packaged bees coming available. We have two folks that are going to give a little bit update on those. First off, I want to give it to Mr. Al Hildreth. Al, if you don't mind, if you can unmute and give everybody an update
Sure.
on your packages. Thank you, Al. Yep, go right ahead.
Okay. Just letting everybody know that we still have some packages available. The there's one shipment arriving the weekend before Easter, which is the last weekend of March. The next one will be 2 weeks later, which is the week after Easter. And I'm also, I don't know if Ron Lassiter's on here, but I'm selling some of his nukes for the season. So if you can't get up with Ron, you can get up with me. Ron's raising the bees. So, and we're open. You can come by the store. We're open Fridays from 10 to 5 and then Saturdays from 10 to 3. So, and also on the class, this year I'm going to be basically following the first lessons in beekeeping from Keith Delaplane, and the Dot publishes that book. Um, so if you're going to take the class, pretty much the lessons I normally teach, I looked at the book this year and it covers everything that I normally also teach. So it's a good resource to go with. You'll still get slides. I'll send them out before. I'll send them out before the class each week. And that way you'll have it to go with if you wanted to print them out, or if you were on the internet but you wanted to download them to your computer. So that's pretty much it.
Great. Thanks, Al. And can you just repeat the name of that book one more time? Um,
It's First Lessons in Beekeeping,
Great. Okay.
and it's by Keith Delaplane.
Okay.
It's the 2007 edition.
Great.
Now, granted, since 2007, there's oxalic acid has become popular for treatments. We've got the beef 402 Sertan for wax moth control. There's some additional stuff that I'll talk about that's not in that book, but for a beginner, that's a really nice book because it's probably 166 pages, so it's not overwhelming. And it going through the table of contents, it pretty much goes along with what we teach.
Okay. Great. Absolutely. So,
All right.
guys, that's
Thank you.
yeah. Thank you, Al. That's again, and I think that's going to be coming up in March 9th. So please, if you have any questions, want to get enrolled, reach out, comment on our Facebook page, YouTube page, email any way you can, and we'll make sure you get enrolled in that class. So once again, thank you, Al. We appreciate it. And Al does a fantastic job. So if you need some refreshing, that's the
And the Ag Center is actually coordinating payments for the class as well.
Great. Yeah. So
So,
if when you're ready, you can submit that your entry fee to that class at the Ag Center.
yes.
So next for our next presenter who has some is Mr. Guy Collins. He has some package bees available. So if anyone's needing to get a hold of some, he's your man. And we're going to let him turn it over and give an update on his. Go ahead, Guy.
Okay, can you hear me all right?
Yes, sir. We can. Thank you.
Can't
All
see.
right. Can I share my screen?
I think you ought to be able to, or you're not getting permission at this point. Okay, there you go.
Let's see.
I think I've allowed multiple at one time, so maybe it'll give you a chance to be promoted. Or here you go. Hold on. Okay, it's saying that you started sharing your screen. Can you got anything up there? There we go. Yes, sir. There it is.
Oh, you can see that?
Yes, sir.
No.
Okay.
Oh,
All right. Well, I'll start with, I'll be very brief, but can you hear me?
yes, sir. One second. One
Okay.
second, Guy. May, can you see that?
No.
You cannot. I'm sorry, everybody. Let me see. Can anybody not see it? Jason, I might need some input here if you're out there.
Doug's screen is still up.
It's still showing.
I was going to say he might need to take his screen down.
Okay. I can see it on my side, which is okay. Give me 1 second. Well, now all I see is Doug's, everybody. So, all right. Go ahead, Guy. Try resharing that if you can.
Okay.
Yeah, if you can reshare it.
All right. Just let me know if it comes up.
Yes, sir.
All right. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll be real brief. I do want to reiterate one point that Al made. That bee school is excellent and very well taught, and I highly recommend anybody that's new to beekeeping or even experienced beekeepers to take that course. It is a very good course. Al does a phenomenal job with it. And I tell all my customers, especially brand new beekeepers, that's the first thing I would recommend along with joining a local club. So to me, that's very, very important. Like Al, I do have a few packages left for our early pickup date, which will be March 25th through 27th, depending on weather. I think we have maybe 15 packages left for that sale date. We have other sale dates where we'll have a few packages. Those will be April 23rd and 24th, and then June 4th and 5th, the latter of which I highly, highly recommend that be for experienced beekeepers, especially ones that are starting on drone comb. That's very, very important at that date. And as I always tell, no matter what time of the year it is, aggressive feeding is warranted, in my opinion.
Mhm.
My packages are $130. If you pay with a credit card online, it's a extra charge for that, and that's about $419, I believe. But they all come with a Mark Queen. We've got a full line of suits, veils, gloves, smokers, hive tools, whatever. I make all my own woodenware. So anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to me. There's my website. There's my phone number. You can find us on Facebook. We are offering discounts for any military or medical staff or first responders. Basically, they get $10 off the price of a package, and any of my customers from last year also get a little discount too. So anyway, I appreciate the time, and that's all I'll share.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
absolutely. And guys, I just wanted to go ahead and jump into the next point. We had Guy also donated a package of bees to the JCBA club, and we're very thankful that he has done so. Um, those bees are going to go into our club apiary, and that has been a major push for our club, is to grow that and give presentations out at the apiary for new members or just hands-on experience overall. So we're very, very thankful for that. And if you see Guy, just please, express your gratitude for that. We're going to plan on putting a sign out there or some kind of mention that Guy was the one that donated those. So again, thank you, Guy. We very much appreciate it. And I guess that
Absolutely.
kind of, yes, sir. And so I think that kind of jumps into our next thing. Next month, guys, the board has been working really hard on trying to get our budget together and get it presentable for our club. So next month, anyone out there that's interested, wants to take a look, see it, um, please attend the March meeting. It is our goal to present that information to you as a club so you know where your membership's going, what it's contributing towards, and how it is ultimately helping the betterment of this club. So please, 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 if you have any interest in seeing the budget, please attend March's meeting. So, um, for and I think at this point that's all I've really got, guys. So we're going to turn it over to Dr. Doug Vincent. He's a great speaker. He's once again the president of the NCSBA, and he's got a great presentation lined up for everybody. So Doug, I'm gonna turn it over to you, and if you want to try sharing your screen again, we'll hopefully get you back in view for everyone.
He's muted.
Oh no. Wait a second, guys. Doug, I think you're muted. If you can unmute, that would might help us out a little bit. Doug,
There he is. Okay.
hey, Doug, there you go.
Okay, I had to leave my screen, so I'll reshare.
Yes, sir.
Is that title slide accurate?
We're currently not seeing it. Give me 1 second. Let me see if I can.
Okay.
Yeah, we're having do a little bit of working around to get this to work. So. Can you try again, Doug, and maybe I think Jason's out here with me. He might be able to help direct a little bit, and possibly direct me as well.
You may just need to reshare. It should come back up.
Okay. Does that work? No.
Yeah, I gotta love tech, right? So we're gonna work through this real quick. So
Well, I don't see reshare. I don't see that little green thing.
okay. Let me see here.
If you pull down to the bottom of the screen, does it say share screen?
Um, no.
Probably need to change your view. Top right-hand corner says view. Probably need to change that.
It's a group effort. We can get it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm all for it. Well, I usually get a little drop down up at the top. It's green. I think it says share or continue to share or something. I may have to go all the way back out.
Well, that's fine if you need to.
I don't know. Let me try slideshow one more time and see
Okay.
from the beginning. I get it, but you're not getting it.
Yeah.
I guess I may have to rejoin the meeting.
Yep, that's fine if you want to go back in, out and come back in. That's we got plenty of time. Hey, Doug,
That was it.
there it goes.
We've got your full wallpaper now.
Okay. Okay, cool. Only problem is I don't have it, but I can get it, I think. How are we doing now?
Looks good.
Perfect.
I don't know that we need these little thumbnails over here. They're a little distracting, but I don't, that's up to you.
I think it looks good if it works for you.
Okay, thank you, Philip. Flowery introduction. Too much so, I guess. I bring you all greetings from the NCSBA, particularly the BOD, the Board of Directors. A question came up before we actually started about future conferences, and in the upcoming buzz, there's some news about in the president's message there. But the problem with the buzz is, you know, it's when you get it and read it, it's 3 months old.
Yeah.
That's a small problem, but I'll speak to that just a little bit. I answered May's question. In March, we're having 3, I believe it's Thursdays. It's Wednesday or Thursday evening sessions just like this, but we're having speakers, known speakers, not local talent, and I think there'll be 7 to, I think it's about 90 minutes each on March 18, 25, and April 1, I believe. I know that those are the dates. If you go to the NCSBA website and go to news, there's a little menu down, I believe, kind of lower right hand, and it just says news. If you click on that, that information is in there, and it gives you the speakers, their bios, all that. It's a good write-up. I'm a little disappointed in the webmaster that he did not put it up as a banner. I mean, it's the most important thing we got going on right now, but he didn't think so. So it's buried in the news if you want to look that up. Summer, some of you heard this earlier, but we may try to move out into like mid-September in order to get away from the corona a little bit, the pandemic a little bit, give the vaccine another month or two, and try to have an in-person meeting. That's not a promise. Y'all want to, I want to, we all want to. You know, we're under restrictions from the governor and the president and Fauci and who all, but we hope to have some form of in-person late summer, fall meeting. So, but please look at the website and get that information about the web series in March and early April, and that's in lieu of a spring meeting.
Mhm.
We hate it, but that's just the way it is. Well, I appreciate you guys' time tonight, and this program is maybe a month or two late, but it's good information, I think, and just bear with me if you have questions, put them in the chat or something. Maybe we can get to those then. I don't want to keep you all night, so I'll move along pretty good. Overwintering, let me just go ahead and, I know you've had some issues with your bees, and if I ask you to give me a list, you put winter losses somewhere. Some of you would put it first. Maybe you're lucky enough that you would put it last, but I would almost bet that it would make the list. It seems to be a big deal, and I don't know. I don't do Facebook a lot, but I do our NCSBA Facebook a little bit, and I've been seeing quite a few entries there that people are giving up. They said, I'm done. I've had it. So it's kind of sad, really. This material is a little bit dated, but the newer material from BIP, Be Informed Partnership, is the numbers match almost the same. So I hadn't changed the slide, but you know what? We talk about 40% annual losses, and they come in winter for the most part. What do we attribute that to? A long list here. Starvation. It's always fascinates me. The highest percentage is attributed to starvation, and it just makes. I mean, 37% of beekeepers let their bees starve. Just kind of amazes me a little bit. I have done that. Listen, I know, but I try not to do that. I mean, there's ways not to do that. But anyway, we can fall, obviously, that's one. And all of these things in this left-hand column here, starvation, we can fall all the way down. We have control over all of that except number 3, and that's weather. And I'm not sure what people that did the survey, I'm not sure what weather did to them. I think it's just the fact that it happened in winter, and that's winter weather. So I guess I don't know what their thinking was there. You look back in 2010, 52% people said their losses were attributed to weather. I don't know. We were talking earlier here, some of you guys, Greg and stuff, before we got started, talking about the current weather we're having, and it's pretty nasty, and it's pretty nasty on bees, and it's pretty different from what it was last year. So I'm not sure what the outcome is going to be over the next couple of months, but maybe not favorable. But anyway, queen failure, and this program's not about that, but I think it's an overlooked thing, and I think in some of the schools, Al and the people that present the schools for new beekeepers, they don't know what queen issues are. We talk about mites all the time, and we talk about feed a lot. And I help people some, and I go to them and I say, you got to lay to work. Say, well, how did I know that? How would I know that? And a lot of I would want Lewis Cobble to hear me say it, but queen issues may be as important as mites. So anyway, just kind of an interesting breakdown as to what people respond. This came from a survey. Y'all may take the survey. I do it every year, thinking it might help a little bit, but the numbers don't change much from year to year. Starvation being the top is a little bit, and they don't. If you look at right in here, they don't vary much. They're all about 25% or so, 30%. So they all rank about the same. What do we do? And we buy bees. You guys been sitting here talking about buying packages. My club sells packages. I think I believe I live in Catawba County, in Hickory area, And I know my club sells sells packages, and I think it was 2 or 3 years ago. I counted up, and I know a lady that's got a bee business here, and she sells, and I think it was like 500 packages that were sold in this county in that spring. And so we buy a lot of bees. And, of course, we catch swarms. Some people really use that as an increased method and stuff. I hate swarms. I don't hate them. I just hate messing with them. But spring splits, we do that for different reasons, and to increase and abate swarming to some degree. And I'm going to talk again in June, and I'll be talking about summer splits and divides. So I won't talk much about that. I'll talk more about that then, but I just had it in this list. And some of this stuff runs together, as you know. And some people just give up. I was talking about it. I saw I've been seeing it on Facebook. People just giving up. So 40% is a lot. A cattle guy he would quit too if he lost 40% of his herd. Survivorship, some of the things that I've seen in working with other beekeepers, particularly experienced beekeepers, some things have survivorship. Survivorship is, bees alive in spring, and certain things. And one experienced beekeeper and I did a little study. I don't know, 6 or 8 years ago, maybe, or not quite so long. And some of the things we saw that recurring things, bees that survived had queenless periods during the summer. In the next program in June, I will talk a lot about that. Summer mated queens, I'll talk about that. Mite reduction at critical time, that's in summer, going into late summer, early fall. I'll talk some more about that. So but we saw that the bees that survived had at least 3 of these, fit in 3 of these categories. And so it was kind of an indication of what we need to do to achieve survivorship. Small nest cavity during winter. This guy introduced the guy I'm talking about that we actually did a little research, but not very sophisticated, but he introduced me to small nest cavity bees, beekeeping, and I drank the Kool-Aid. Survivorship's to be alive in spring. I just mentioned that. And sustainability is to have the number of colonies you want in the spring. A guy that's got 2, he kind of wants 2 next spring. I mean, in September, he kind of wants those 2 bee hives next spring. I've got about 50. And I want about 50 next spring because I'm in the honey business. So there's some things, these 2 things are a little bit different. If you had 10 and you lost 3, you had survivorship. I mean, you had some bees left in spring, but did you have as many as you wanted? You really wanted 10, or you wouldn't have had 10 to start with. So you have to do something to be sustainable. So, to try to make a case for this concept, this is rough figures, and this kind of came out of a little bit of that study I was talking about. In my experience, in my bee yards, I can easily have 85% survivorship from 5-frame nukes. Easily. Better. I can do better than that. The ones I made this year, I made about 15. I know I lost 1. I think I might have lost another one. But anyway, 10-frame single deep. I can pretty well stay way under 20% loss with those. A deep with a single shallow super. That's what I use for honey, is shallow supers, and I use all 10-frame equipment. Pretty much 9 frames and 10-frame boxes primarily, but 2 deeps or more. Big tall boxes I have the least success with. I don't do many of these anymore. our beekeeping literature is so heavily influenced by northeastern beekeeping, um, and not only the literature but the verbal, the speakers and so forth. Two deeps in New Jersey. I mean, if you don't do that, you're not doing beekeeping right. And we're influenced by that. And I used to be influenced with that. I was reading stuff that everybody did two deeps, but I don't do that much anymore. But I had the least success with that of anything. What is a small? It's just what I was talking about. A single deep. It's a single deep or a single or double nuke with you know. I don't know if you guys watch Barnyard Bees on YouTube. This guy's doing 2-frame nukes, and I have not done that. The guy I keep alluding to, I've seen him do like 3 and 4, a little 3 and 4 frame, shallow frame boxes that made it that he overwintered. And I think he's just playing around mostly, but so you can have different sizes, different configurations. And I'll show you some more of this, but a single deep with one super, pretty common, and I do this, and I'll show you some I do. There's just all kinds of stuff out there. If you watch Randy Oliver and some of these guys up in Maine and Northeast, they're doing these boxes like the one on the left here. And then they stack these up and do all kinds of crazy stuff, but they wrap them and all that stuff. I have tried this configuration and I like it pretty good. They share heat. I think that's the best thing. But there's some downsides to this too. The Queen Castle, when that first came out, I had to have one, and I just can't make that work. It just doesn't work for me. I could go into details why, but it doesn't matter. It's a great if you find in March when you find frame with cells on it and you don't want to destroy that, it makes a pretty good mating nuke. And it's pretty handy for that. And you can increase the size. You can make it full size. You can make it 4, 2, 3, whatever you want. So it's pretty versatile. My biggest complaint is I like individual boxes. If I want to move box A somewhere, I can take it. I don't have to take everybody. So it's just kind of a personal thing. This is a great for a frame. Find a frame with a cell on it and spring it. Don't waste it. Put it in there. I mean, I don't know if this is an ape of me. I got the picture somewhere, but it's styrofoam. They come up with this stuff all the time. And this, I don't know about the one on the left here. It looks like it'd be more suited for beer to me, but anyway, my goals for winter preparation, to reduce the size of my production colonies. I look around and I just was by a guy house. I don't know him. He's not in the associated beekeeping here in this county, but he's got at least 2 deeps and probably 4 supers on about 4 or 5 different hives. And a couple of them look like they might have 5 or 6 supers on them still. And I don't get his deal, but I try to get mine down because that's kind of like I say, I took the Kool-Aid on this small box stuff for several reasons. We'll go through that. But I try to reduce the nest size, the box size, or the number of boxes, or however you want to put it. And I treat them and feed them. And I don't insulate and ventilate, particularly in our part of the world. We don't insulate. And ventilation, I don't know about that either. Not too important, I don't think. But then, getting ready for winter back in the summer, and I'll talk more about this in June about establishing nukes to hedge against the inevitable losses. Like I said, if your goal is to have 10 colonies, I'm sorry, and you go into the fall with 10 and lose half of them, when you get to spring, you're kind of screwed because you don't have what you wanted. So I know I'm going to lose a few. I lose fewer now than I used to. I'm a little better at it, but in order to have what I want, in spring, I make up some nukes, to hedge against the losses. I kind of anticipate what my losses will be. So, if I wanted 10 in the spring, then if I'm going to lose 40%, then I need, make 4 nukes, and I go into winter with 10. I go into 14 with 14. If I lose 4, then I'm at 10. That's what I want. That's what my beekeeping is, 10 hives, if that's what it is. And I treat them the same way. I kind of overstock them and treat, feed, and insulate, but I don't do much of that. This is kind of my go-to deal, and this is just what I've been talking about. These are 5-frame nukes, and these are single 10-frame deeps. Most of these have 9 frames in them. I started out, I got a guy that helps me, and I put spacers in my honey supers so they'll fill them out wider and I can uncap them easier. Well, he thought if you put them in there, you got to put them in everything. So he's been putting spacers in these, and so they're 9 frames too. But it actually makes them a little easier to work. You give up a frame, maybe a brood, but anyway, kind of off topic. But this is kind of my go-to. And let me go ahead and make a qualification here. These nukes that you see, I have not taken a big box and made these 4 nukes just to make a small box. I've made these to use resources, and I'll show you a picture in a minute, or I've used them to hedge my deal, like I spoke about a minute ago. These are extra. These are extra. So if I lose these 2, I've still got some bees, and so I've done this presentation a few times, and I get to the very last slide, and somebody said, "Well, those little boxes were splits." They thought I just did it to make them small. I don't just do it to make them small. To to kind of go against that, I might have a time. This one here, might get real small down to 2 or 3 frames, and I might put it in a nuke box just to give it less space. But I don't make these up just to make small boxes. I make them up. This is insurance for one thing. It breaks reproductive cycle for another thing. And these are things I'll talk about in these splits, how and why in June when I come back. And there are again other arrangements. I don't see too much reason for this. They do share heat a little bit. Even if there were 6 inches between here, you go in here and this time of year right now, and these bees would be on the inside. Somehow they can feel heat that far. So I think that helps a little bit, but our bees don't freeze. Cold weather here, as bad as it's been the last few days, we don't lose bees from freezing. So I don't know about all this. If I want to do this one, then I got to take this one off. And if I want to move this one, I got to put this one down on the bottom or put a bottom board on it. It's just a lot more manipulation, I think. And stacked up like this, I've done this before. And it works pretty good. They share heat from this big colony down here. I would probably have some sort of this is not mine, but I'll probably have some sort of separation in here. But anyway, I just like the individual boxes. I can pick it up, I can take it, I could work it and not disturb the neighbor and do all kinds of stuff like this. And this is kind of what, I typically see. This is winter. I don't know when, not this year, but, this is I guess this is probably February, maybe. But this is a pretty good colony of bees for that time of year. I think anybody would be happy with that. So, when I've done this, I get a lot of questions about, do they not starve? I mean, you've got to leave 60 pounds of honey on there. Well, I can disprove that. And I do every year. So, but I do feed a lot. And I forgot who made the comment. I guess it was Al a while ago that, said next to attending a school, learning to feed bees is probably the second best thing you could do. And I agree. I feed these bees a lot. this was a production colony last summer, and I took all the honey off, got it down to a single deep, and then I fed hell out of it. And these outside frames will have in February, they'll still have honey on them. And this is why I do this too. This is a single deep with a shallow honey super on it. That one probably, in September, well, after honey deal, say they didn't do very well. They didn't maybe they had another super up here and it was full. I took this one off and, maybe I didn't have an excluder and it's had a couple, 2 or 3 frames of brood in it and it had a little bit of honey, not extractable honey. Then, I just can't believe I can't hardly make myself just take that off and destroy it. I'll leave it on. Nothing's completely 100%. And, we have to, we're adaptable animals and we have to be adaptable to the bees. So there are times I leave this on. This is my number 1 go-to. This would be number 2. And I like the little nuke boxes too. They survive better than anything. Friend of mine up in Burke County, he does 6 frame nukes. And is 1 frame better? And what is it that much more? I think if we're going to do 6, I'd just leave it in a 9 frame deep. I don't know, but we don't argue about it. He's a good friend of mine. He's really good beekeeper. This is a permanent feeder up here. He's like me. He believes in feeding, and he makes it's his invention. He's got 2 jugs under here. I forget what size they are, but he leaves this on all the time. Of course, he's got holes where these jars. I don't have one with the lid off. I should have, I guess, but he does really well with these things. They really survive. And here's one he's got. I think it's 2. 2 the same. That one looks a little more shallow, but I don't think it is. And he doubles these up and uses them for queen rearing as well. He doesn't do a lot. He sells nukes, so he doesn't do a lot of full size boxes. This is an old farm he's got bees on, and these double ones here on this porch I know are queen rearing boxes. He loads them up with bees, nurse bees, and raises queens in here. So you can have, like I say, barnyard bees. That guy David, whatever his name is, he does 2 frame nukes. They're mostly mating nukes. He puts a frame of brood and a frame of foundation or a starter strip or something, and puts a cell in it. Well, he can put a cell or a mated queen or a virgin queen, but a lot of cells, and so it's more of a mating nuke than it is just a nuke. But it's a good resource. He's got if he needs a queen, just jerk it out. You can find her on 2 frames easily. This is this was a farm that I had some bees on at one time, and I didn't see this. Actually, didn't find this tree till I moved the bees away. But and I'm sure there were my bees. The tree was leaning, fell down, and we tried to get them out and didn't do very much of a good job on it. But it's bees in the wild, they have one entrance, and they've got a really. I've got another picture I took out to keep from being so long. It shows this in cross section. It's just it's about 8 inches of, maybe 6 or 8 inches of hollow space in there. So bees like a small spot. This is another guy, member of our club, and he's a real daredevil. He like his ladder arrangement here. But he's a cutout guy. And bees, they like long, slender spaces. That I never thought about too much when I had put this slide in here, but I had a very astute guy somewhere I gave this program, and he said, well, if this wall had insulation in it, how did these bees get in there? And the answer is there were bees in here before. This is the second cutout in this space. When they put the boards back up, they didn't put any insulation back in. Guy was trying to trick me, but I don't have a heat-seeking camera. At one time, I had access to one, and I used it some. I got a couple of pictures of that, but the guy moved away and took his camera. So, and you know, using it, what little I used it, I learned what's in there, so I don't really need one. The picture is not for clarity or anything, so it's distorted some. It just shows heat. That's what it's for. So. I don't remember if this was it looks like the 3 shallows. I don't think it was, but it just shows the point being that in winter, these bees have moved up. They always do. They moved up onto food, and this is where they are. So, you know, is this box necessary? You know, I don't know. I don't think it is right now. There's no bees down here. So just like I say, the title said, telling evidence from this camera. If that box hadn't been on here when you started, then the bees would be down here. So you don't really, this is empty space. I gave this program a similar program at one of the ES meetings, I forget, and I've done several, but there was an engineer sitting on the front row, and I didn't know it at the time, but he identified himself later. And I called, let's see, I don't think it's this slide. I think maybe it's this one. And I call this empty space down. These are bees up here. No bees down here. I call this a heat sink. And he went ape. Being an engineer, he knew that it's not a true heat sink, and he wanted to argue about it. And it's not a true heat sink. It's just, it's space that does, you know, some of the heat from here has to go down here. So it's in scientific, in physics, it's not a heat sink. But anyway, just to show you where the bees are in winter in this particular box. How about this one? Where are the bees here? This one's empty, dead. Same thing. Like I say, the pictures get a little distorted, but this is, and they don't heat the whole inside of the hive. You know, the clusters where is whatever, 94 degrees or whatever it is, maybe not that high if they don't have some brood, but so the whole box, the whole air, all the air in here is not that hot. And so they don't have to keep this hot, but it's still more efficient. It's like it would be like a room with 4 or 5 doors. You know, if you had them all open, it's going to be colder. And so this air here is just, it just pulls on this heated air, I feel like. So this as a single deep would be better thermally than this configuration, in my opinion. Top bar hives, one of the reasons they don't do very well in this part of the country, you know, they cluster in the middle. They got just a lot of cold air over here. And like I said before, cold does not hurt bees, doesn't kill bees. They use up more energy trying to keep all this, not that it's all the same temperature, but it's a kind of a waste of energy. You know, smaller boxes, you got 2 deeps, like I was talking about, and they have in New England. And you almost always have to reverse them in spring because all the bees are up here. You got to put this deep on top of that deep. And so smaller, if this is one box, you don't have to reverse anything. You got nothing to reverse. These happen to be 2, and it's just this happens to be an interesting case here. But I should have had a picture before I did anything. They both looked the same. The super was up here, the deep was down here. When I went into it, all the bees were in the super in this one, number 2. So I put the super on the bottom, put the deep on top of it to have the bees go up into the super. Then when they did, I reversed it again. So it's a lot of work to do that. But I needed to get these bees out of the super up into here. And I'll remember this slide. This is where the cluster was in this one. and it was kind of divided between the two, and that's pretty typical until they get really hungry, and then it's all up here, probably like the heat camera showed. And uh, remember this slide. It's a little story within the story. But you get from, I was talking about the guy that rode by his house, and he had all this configuration like this, except he had two deeps this time of year, and I'm not sure what he's trying to do. Maybe he left that much honey on there for them. I don't know. They're not going to eat it all, but getting from here to here is the hard part. This one would be, full. This one would be full. These three up here would be full probably. This one, like I mentioned a while ago, it might have a little brood in it, a little uncapped honey. You take it off. I mean, what do you do? So it gets kind of hard to do this. I don't mean to double speak, but when I said a while ago that I don't do this just to put them in small boxes, and I don't. It looks like I do, but I want to stress that because people in the past have not understood that. This will clear up. This next slide will clear it up a little bit. After flow decisions, I still have honey on here. It's not completely after flow. It may be after flow, and I just haven't taken it off. I don't know. This is in June or something blooming over here. But this is a lot of bees, and when I take these supers off, it's a lot of bees in a short box. So you got some decisions to make. You can just do that because they're going to, a brood rearer is going to start going down, and bees can, they can exist in a small space. A lot of bees can, but it's still a lot of resources. That's a lot of bees. I mean, it just makes me kind of makes my mouth water when I see those. I can just make some more boxes out of those. So that's a decision you have to make. So you can split them into nukes. Like this is not the past box, but after the flow and I get the honey off, and I mean there's a million bees in here, and there's a lot of brood still and things. If I want to have some insurance, or if I want to increase, if I want more bees than I've got, then I can do this, and I can leave it like this, and it'll do fine over winter. It's a great configuration to overwinter. But I can make up a couple of these out of here and hedge my bet or hedge my losses by doing so. So that's what I do. And in summer, this is what I do in July primarily, maybe up into August a little bit. Our flow is over after the 4th of July for sure. And before that, a large part. So I start on this. And usually by the time I get through the honey, I'm so damn tired of messing with bees. I may put it off a little bit, but I'll talk a lot about this in spring. There may not be anybody come back, but I will. So you take the supers off, and you can do whatever you like. I help a guy that doesn't know much about beekeeping, and I helped him take some honey supers off, and he extracted them. He said, "What can I do with them?" I said, "Well, you can put them back on the hive and let them clean them up. That's the best way, but it's more work. Or you can just set them out." And he just threw them out more or less here. So that's kind of the way he operates his operation. You can see how he keeps the weeds down. But anyway, I mean, you just do what I like to put my supers back on. And I do a lot. I make a good bit of honey, and I've got a lot of supers to do it with, but I'll put a good strong box. I might put 2 or 3 wet supers on it and let them clean it up. They just clean it up so much neater. If you set it out like this, they just tear the wax up and do all that stuff. And if you put it back on here, it's pristine. It's not even sticky after they do it. I mean, they're fixing it back for to put honey back in it. And when they do it out here, it's just a robbing effort, really. It's a feeding frenzy. So I like to put my supers back on, get them cleaned up before I store them. I don't know. This was August. It wasn't last Saturday, obviously, but whenever I'd made this slide for whatever program it was last Saturday. But these are some that I made up, and I just made these. I don't want to beat you over the head with the idea, but I didn't do it just to get them in a small box. I did it because I wanted these extra bees. I can sell them in the spring, but I tell you, when I make these things up in July and I feed them all fall and I treat them all fall and I feed them in the winter, I'm a little hard to give them up in the spring myself, but I do sell a few. So, and just to show you, I mean, it's not 100%. I feed them. This got a couple of feeders on it. I may move these around. They may have been over here yesterday. I don't have a feeder for every box, but you could do that. I like top feeders. I do some Boardmans on these little boxes. They don't rob too badly. Anyway, now I don't have the slides here. I'll show you later on in the next show. I lost, I think, this one and this one, and it's kind of interesting. I think this was a queen failure. So just to be perfectly transparent, it doesn't all work. I think I showed it at 85%, and I probably do better than that now. I've been doing these so long. But there are failures. Things happen that sometimes you just don't even know why. And I believe this one get queenless and didn't let them. I kind of neglected them and it got too far along. And but they're not hard to combine. You can even go and put them in a other box. But coming out of winter, this is probably February. Some of I dated. I think this is a date over here. I can't see it over here now. I think it's 129 February. Might be December. I mean January. Could have been January. I don't remember. Go in, checking these out. Here's one I didn't take all the way down to a single deep because, as I mentioned a couple of times, sometimes I just hate to give up the resources that are in here. If it's all honey, I'll take it off in a heartbeat and feed them. I can buy sugar cheaper, and I get so much a pound for honey, and I buy sugar for 40 cents a pound. So I'll take that off if it's full super honey. Not always, not always, but I do it a little more often than I ever did. So this is my partner here helping me, and he's just looking here. That's that frame, and it's just so cool. There's a little patch of brood right here. I don't know if you can see that, but the honey over here now this is a middle frame. I don't know which one. It's somewhere in the middle. And it used to have a lot more honey in here, but over winter, as winter has progressed from November, whenever I fed last, till now, this is all sugar water, probably. They eat it out that way. They just eat toward the corner, making room for brood, of course. And that's the way they naturally do. That's just the way bees operate. And then they clean these cells up, and she starts laying in them, and the brood nest expands, and the honey corners go away, and then we start all over again in the summer. But this was the 5th of February in 18. I don't remember what the weather was that winter, but that's a pretty good patch of brood for the first end of November, end of January, 1st of November, February. Sorry. Same thing. They've had this honey. They're expanding the brood nest, but as they eat the honey out, it's just a natural progression. It's so cool to see the way they do that. And people say, well, they'll starve in a 5-frame nook. No, they don't. There's just enough bees and just enough food. It's a perfect. No, that's perfect, but it's almost perfect setup. And by same thing, another frame. They've eaten more of this honey out. But, by the time this is gone and this brood nest is expanding more, then the flow will be on, or at least there will be a partial flow. It'll be spring, there'll be dandelions and that kind of stuff. So they start all over again. The point being that these things don't starve if you prepare them properly and get them stocked up with food. Another frame. I don't know if this is the same box or not. Maybe not, but you can see that they're just expanding this nest. It used to be honey all down in here, and now this is an outside frame I just pulled out, completely solid both sides. Now this is February 29th, 1st of March, when bees should be starving. This is just so typical of these boxes. I see. I'll ask later, but this frame over here will probably be the same, and then these in here will be like I've been showing you, a little bit of brood and a little bit of honey. But I mean, this is 10 pounds of honey, probably, and maybe more. An outside frame that they've not worked their way out to yet. So properly prepared, you can't starve these little guys out. Okay, I showed you the box. I had the super down here, and then I reversed it. Well, then I took the super off, completely off, and I fed them. And this shim, I had it on there for a pollen substitute, or pollen supplement, I should say. There's not really a substitute for pollen, but pollen supplement, and they just gobbled it up. And I don't know the date here, but you can see what they did up here on the inside of that inner cover. That's just piss poor beekeeping, leaving it on there, empty shim like that in spring, early spring. But they're so ready to go, and that's another thing about these little nukes. I'll show you more. I don't know about in this presentation, but they're just so powerful in spring. They're so ready to go. They make great production hives. You put the 5 frames in a 10 frame like this and give them some grown comb or foundation, and they just take off. I mean, they just jump. See, this is early spring, and they're wanting to go so bad. They built comb all over on the inside of that. This was hanging down in this shim on the inside of the inner cover. They're just so, I don't know if y'all know Mel Disselcoin, the guy that does on the spot queen rearing, but he said they just have such high voltage. This is the same box, and that's what they did from that little super that had that little oval on it. And I got the bees up into a deep box, and took the super off, fed them, gave them pollen and sugar syrup, and this is what they did. They just explode, and a frame out of there, same thing. Just lots of remaining food, and look at the pollen left over from last year. This is an outside frame. It was pollen all along, but February 15th, 18. And there again, now they've knocked out the honey out of this corner, but they're working their way out. They're bringing this brood nest out. As this honey goes away, she marches on out there and starts laying those cleaned up cells. And they're not hungry. They got plenty of food to raise these babies. They got plenty of pollen to raise these babies. And that's the inner cover. That I screwed up and left it on there too long. But it's still just I mean, I don't know. Oh, I don't know. It's, I think that other one had a date on it. March. And this is Robert. I showed you these things. And this is early, let's see, a 6th frame, early April. And they're just full of bees and just ready to go. And they've got a good bit of, I haven't seen any in his 6 frame nooks that look like mine with as much honey left. I don't know whether it's the extra frame. I just know. Maybe it's the extra bees. I don't know. it's same thing. It's just 6 frames. But then, when you get to first of April, excuse me, 1st of March, somewhere in 1st to mid March, I transfer these nukes into this is a long time ago, into a 10 frame box, and give them, additional frames. I can't get it changed. I set it up and I take this out and put it in here just like it is. I don't, I helped a guy put some nukes in last year that he bought from Brian Fisher, and he said Brian told him to put every other one drawn comb or foundation and one of the frame out of here. And I don't really like to break it up like that. If this little nook had a full honey frame, like I showed you a minute ago, that outside frame that was completely full, I might put it on the outside. I might split that out, put it out there. But I'm not going to split that brood up. I'm just not going to. I'm not saying Brian's right, and I don't think Brian told the man that. This guy doesn't know too much about it. So I don't really think Brian told him that, but whatever. So then, I put it on there, and then I put another, this is back, 5 years ago. Today I would put this excluder right here. I'd put it on top of the deep. And I'd use these both. I just don't like extract honey with brood in it. You can't do that. You shouldn't do that. And they don't need any more brood space than this, really. They don't. If this really looks pretty cool, but I mentioned a minute ago, nothing's 100%. This started out. This is a nuke. No, that I put this one in. This was a nuke that went into 10 frames, 10 frames. At the same time I did this one, and it's still sitting there. So that there's nothing 100%. This little baby's still on the bottle. I mean, he's just not doing any good at all. It's queen right, and it's just a crappy hive. And these were 2 5-frame nukes. This one took off. This one didn't do crap. So it's, as you know, that's the 100%. And you can see I did something with that when I got rid of it. I didn't get rid of it, but I don't know, I combined it or did something. And if you got that, the configuration I had with the super on it, a deep, a super, then the excluder, you get all this brood up in here. This is a honey super. I don't want this as a honey super. And I used to think you had to leave this on here for them to, for honey. But when this brood hatches out in July, they don't really fill it back. We don't have enough flow for them to fill it back with honey where all this brood was anyway. So I just put the excluder on the brood box. Somebody convinced me a long time ago that excluders were honey excluders. They weren't queen excluders. So I didn't use them. I had this mess all the time. I would have brood up in the 3rd honey super. And that's just not right. So I use excluders almost exclusively now, and I make just as much honey as I ever did. It's another piece of equipment. You have to clean them up. They get all messed up, and but that from 5-frame nuke, I made a lot of nice honey. And this is the one I showed you. This was the one. This is that old rotten hive that had the little tiny oval down here in a super. I got the super. I put this on top of the super. Got the bees to go up in it and took that super away. And I put all this honey. These bees put all this honey in here, and this one had that big old oval cluster, and it didn't do crap. Compared to this one, you would have, if you had to bet, you'd never bet on this one. This is a story within the story I was talking about. Just kind of an interesting aside, but sometimes the tiniest little bunch of bees, it depends on the queen and some things, will surprise you. pleasing. And sometimes a really pretty good one, in all appearances, doesn't do very well. Who knows? Who knows? I don't know. This was a overwintered 5-frame nuke that I put in this deep box in mid-March, and they made all these super honey. These two nukes right here, these are two 10 frames now. It's a 10 deep with a single honey super on here. I bought these nukes as they were spring nukes. They weren't overwintered nukes. These nukes were made up in the spring. I got them from a guy. Actually, the guy was a state inspector at the time, and that's no reflection on him at all. I mean, he wanted me to do well with them because he wanted me to buy some more. But these spring splits, and this is not 100% either. I mean, it's pretty typical. They just don't do as well as these 5-frame overwintered nukes. Overwintered nukes are survivors. You know, they made it through winter. These spring splits, I just don't have much luck with them. I'll talk more about that in June. Why does it work? Well, for all the reasons I talked about, I think it kind of mimics a natural nest size in size and volume, and there's an X factor. For the most part, it just works. Some of them don't. I showed you some failures. That's pretty unscientific, but I couldn't think of other words. Health and nutrition is one reason it works. They're close to food. They cluster on food. Now, if you got a box of bees and you got a super up here, 2, 3 supers up with honey in it, they'll starve to death. They won't go up there. They won't break cluster to go feed that far away when it's cold. They won't eat. I mean, I've had bees starve, you know, 2 frames away from honey. But if they cluster on that food, then they eat it out and they do that natural progression like I showed you. They eat the center out to create brood space and they just keep eating it out. And so proximity to food, I think, is one reason it works. Food is plentiful. Because I fed them up really good. The antimicrobial shroud. I don't know if you've heard Marla Spivak talk about the inside of the box, how they propylize it, and it's got an antimicrobial effect. Doug Galloway, the guy that's head of the Master Beekeeping Program, he did his Master Craftsman research on that. And a small nest cavity, they propylize it much more efficiently and effectively than they do a big box. I think they just kind of give up when you've got 3 or 4 boxes on it. But a single box, they'll propylize the inside and you get this effect. And I talked about the heat. I'm not going to argue about the physics of that. Another reason small colonies, you know, they have fewer mites. That sounds a little trite, but they just, you know, small cluster of bees just has fewer mites, and they have a fewer mite bee to bee ratio, and therefore they have fewer viruses. And big, you know, people say, "Oh, my best box went away. My best box died on me. How could that be?" Well, it's got something to do with this. They got a lot of bees to feed. A big deep has got a lot of bees to feed for one thing, and then they've got a hell of a lot more mites too, and a lot more viruses. And viruses run rampant in the winter. Treatment efficacy, particularly now that I don't know how many of you are. I'm using oxalic vapor, and you know, a small box like a 5-frame or even a single deep with a super on it, you get a lot of smoke in there, and it's condensed in there pretty good. So, but even with Apivar or some of that stuff, with the bees close together, they're closer to that treatment, and you need less chemical, and there's not nearly as much brood in a smaller box. And I believe that's it, finally. So I thank you for your attention, Philip. I would entertain questions. I know it's a little long. I get carried away sometimes.
Can anybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hey, well, thank you very much, Doug. It was an awesome presentation. I think we do have a few questions, at least on our YouTube side, and you may have already answered this, although I do want to, just for the sake of them having their question answered, are you forcing large colonies into smaller equipment, or are you taking some bee frames away at the time you reduce size?
I don't force them, no.
Yes,
I take some frames away. If and I'll talk more about it in June, but if I might go in, I might go in 3 or 4 boxes to make up a 5 frame nook. I might just get 1 frame out of one. I might get 2 out of another one, and maybe 1 out of another one. So I don't know. I don't condense them. I kind of pick and choose. I hope that answers that a little bit. No, I don't force them. Sometimes, sometimes I'll give them a little shake of bees. After I get all the frames in, I'll just grab a frame and, if I know that and I'll talk more about it later, how I do that. But first thing I do is try to get the queen so so I'm free to do whatever I want to do. So I may take say this box here's got, it's pretty good, but I don't want to rob all the brood. I'll take 1 frame out. Maybe the next one's really strong, got 4 or 5 frames of brood. I'll take maybe 2 frames of brood out of it. And then maybe I'll get and I don't worry that if you read Larry Connor, he's got a book on I don't know what the title is. It's about splits and stuff. And it's got a lot of good information, but he just stresses over and over putting a couple frames of honey in there. I'm going to feed these bees. I don't care if I'd rather have bees than honey in July when I make it up. I hope that helps answer that.
absolutely. Thank you. And I also saw we had one more. Do you experience higher rates of swarming when in smaller boxes due to crowding?
I don't. No, I don't. I don't. I don't have. I do these in summer, and I usually the nooks I make up. I put a newly mated queen in, so she's a brand new queen and not so likely to swarm, and she overwinters better, and she's less likely to swarm next spring too. I typically, and I learned this from somebody else, and I don't have any science for it, but I like queens that are mated after June 20th, after summer solstice. So I don't have much, I don't have much swarming in summer, and that's when I do them. I do have swarming in the spring, in March, like everybody does in April. And sometimes I'm kind of down on spring splits, but sometimes I do split some just to break them up a little bit. These ones that are boiling over in spring is in an effort to maybe prevent swarming to some degree. But even now, I have had some 5 frame nukes, like say 1st of August, that just really jumped, and they just so full of brood and bees. I might pull a frame out and put a frame of foundation or a frame of probably drawn comb, just for a little more space. But swarming from these little boxes don't swarm in the spring. I mean, in summer much. I watch Cayman Reynolds. You guys may not. He talks about little boxes swarming all the time. I just haven't had that problem personally. I'm not saying I never have, but I don't have to worry about it really. But I have pulled out brood occasionally, just all brood. And the main reason I wanted to is to put a frame of drawn comb in there, so they put sugar water that I'm giving them in it. I'd rather have the sugar water in there late summer than I would really have the brood.
Mhm.
Hey, did you have anything to add to that question?
No, I was just also kind of surprised that your mite count would be any different in the ratio of bees in a smaller box versus the ratio you would have in a larger box? Because if you've
no,
got if you
I
still have a lot of brood, I wouldn't see how it would make a difference.
I probably shouldn't have said ratio. Um,
I don't know if you did or not. That's how I took it.
I did say, I think I did say that. I really meant to say um, infestation rate is what I meant to say, which is similar to ratio. Um, I just know from my experience and from some other people's experience in these small clusters, the mite count is always lower than any bigger cluster. Um, and it may be because of the way we develop them. And the way I started doing, one reason I started doing the nukes to start with was a brood break for mite reduction during that period of time. I mean, take a queenless period where the mites don't have any place to reproduce. You get a brood break, and I'll talk more about that in another program, but I probably misspoke, but it's been my experience and some from others that small clusters just have a lower infestation rate.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. I've not experienced it.
Mr. Vinson, I do have a question as well.
Go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Bert Stoner. I'm the vice president here. I saw, or I was watching there. You said you exclusively you do use queen excluders, and I was wondering if you used a secondary entrance for the upper when you do that.
No, in a word, no. I've experimented with that. My bees don't like an upper entrance very well. But I have done that. I don't think it's a requirement in my experience. And I used to drill a hole. I used to do some stuff, and they just don't use it that much. Maybe with too deeps they might, more so. I don't do it anymore. I don't provide an upper entrance anymore.
Yeah, not for. Yep.
I don't. I said something about ventilation. I mean, just a lot of talk about ventilation. The lady out in Washington, I can't remember, Honeybee Sweet lady. For she lives in a place that rains every day, and it's just everything's wet all the time. So that may have something to do with it. But
kind of like here now.
Yeah, like it is here now out there all the time. So she talks, she does that quilt stuff, and that was some of this stuff is faddish. The quilts will be gone sometime, and like screen bottom boards, they're getting gone now, and so it can be kind of faddish, and some of it's marketing, but maybe certain parts of the country. But I don't make any particular effort to ventilation. I mean, bees in the tree don't have a top hole, and so I don't make an upper hole entrance. I do not. At one time I put a emery shim. You know what that is?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I put one of those on every box, and I swear they just didn't use the hole that much. And then I go in, and they've got brace comb and burr comb up in there where that extra space is. So I quit using those things. Sounded like a great idea.
They purplize it shut, yeah.
Yeah. Emery, the guy that developed that, they must have worked for him because he promoted it all over the place. But no, I'm not too big on upper entrance. My bees don't use it enough for me to bother with it. I do like excluders.
Yes. This is John Converse. I manage one of the apiaries for the club. Got a question concerning nukes. What's your thoughts on a 5-frame nuke made out of a 10-frame box with a follower board?
That's a good technique. Certainly. a lot of advantages to that. One is the heat sharing, for sure. Um, uh,
Well,
less equipment.
yeah.
Yeah. And I've got a few of those. I use a few of those. I think I showed a picture of one.
Well, let me ask this
Yeah.
question. If you were to have a 10 frame and just have 5 frames in there and the other side completely empty, is that a problem in the winter with the Fowler board?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. I don't. Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay. How much honey do you try to have on your hives or sugar water when you go into winter? How many pounds roughly?
I don't weigh it, John. I just do the old pickup test. And when it feels like it's nailed down, I think it's got enough in it. And I may look in it, some. I give them all they'll take. I'll feed them
Okay.
all they will take.
Where are you located at? I wasn't there early beginning.
Hickory.
Okay. Okay. And what's your thoughts on migratory covers versus telescopic?
Well, of course, migratory covers stay on better for sure. I had a little whirlwind or something one time that tore up some of my beehives. It wasn't a tornado, but it was a very local thing. And I had a couple that had migratory covers on, and they were 200 feet away. And it blew some of the boxes over, and the big covers got popped off, hitting the ground. But you can, if you're moving bees, a good bit of migratory cover obviously is easier. You can stack them. If you're going to palletize them, you about got to use it. All mine are kind of individual boxes, so I use primarily the telescopic top. It's a little heavier, and I still put a rock on it or a brick or something, but that's what I primarily use. But if I were going to move them on pallets and stuff, I'd go to the other, of course, because you get them closer together. So I don't know that there's an advantage, except that they're a little easier to get off. Migratory covers are a little easier to get off. So sometimes if you don't open a telescopic cover for a long time, it's pretty hard to get out. I've broken the side off one getting it off. So the others, you got a kind of a little slit there you can get in. So it's just a personal preference. I use about all migratory because I don't move my bees. If I do, I just move a couple boxes. I don't put them on pallet or
anything. Do you use any IPM boards at all?
You talking about screen bottom boards?
Yes, sir.
I do.
Okay.
I do. I be honest, I'm kind of phasing them out. If I have to replace one, rot it out or something, I'm going to solid. And I think the reason, the main reason, the concept of screen bottom is great. And that's the reason I bought some originally when it first came out. Hell, everybody bought. I mean, stuff falling through, particularly mites, is very appealing. And it's good. I used to do sticky boards a lot for my accounts. And it's very handy for that because it's got a place there you can put it in there. But I don't like to leave them open in winter, even though I've talked about bees don't, cold's not a big issue. I seal mine up. I put something in there in winter, a piece of plywood or masonite or something. And that's just extra equipment. And I've got about 3 different sizes. When I go to a yard, I've got 2 that fit and 2 that don't or something. And and I still, on solids, I'll as best I can, I take the bottom board off and clean it off at least once a year. But I don't think the advantage of the fall through probably, I don't think it outweighs the disadvantages. If you believe you don't have to close it up in winter, then that's fine. My bees they were going to the top. I mean, just to the very, very top of those green bottoms. So I started closing them up in winter. And then you got to remember to get them out in spring. And I always find one in August that I forgot to take out last spring or two. So I'm leaning more towards solid. I can't poo-poo that concept of the screen, and a lot of crap comes through there, not just mites, but other stuff too. So I think that's a real positive, but you can also clean off the solid, and I don't have to have the extra boards to put in there when I close them up. So I'm kind of, if I have to buy a new bottom board, I buy a solid now.
Thank you.
Doug, I'd like to throw one question at you.
Go ahead.
So Lewis isn't here tonight. So somebody's got to play devil's advocate. So
I'm good.
Yeah. So tell us about your mite, how you monitor your mite monitoring.
Well,
alcohol wash, how often, things like that.
Well, since you're asking, I'll tell you the truth. If Lewis was asking me, I'd probably lie about it. But I really like the alcohol wash. I do. It's pretty labor intensive. I've got 50 couple of boxes. It's pretty hard for me to diligently do that. And I tell you, when I was doing sticky boards, you can about do all of them with that. But if you're diligent, if you do the alcohol wash like you should and try to get just, as many, a high percentage of nurse bees as you can get in your sample and go through all that, it's pretty labor intensive and time. So I used to be able to sleep at night by just doing random sampling. But we found out so much in the last couple of years about drifting and reinfestations and that kind of stuff. I don't, random sampling, I don't trust so much. I do when I test, I do alcohol washes. And I come up with a scheme. I don't do, I'll be honest. Like I say, if Lewis was here, I'd lie. I will arbitrarily pick some and check them. I'd love to do them all. And if I had some help, more help, I would try to. But then again, are you going to do it 4 times a year? Or whatever Randy Oliver says. I don't know if it comes to that. I don't know what. And I just right or wrong, and I'm not making a recommendation at all. I just treat all mine. I do. And I do it. I feel better about it now that we know more about this drifting and reinfestation. So I justify it that way a little bit. I pretty much treat them all.
When you say treat, do you all? I know you mentioned oxalic earlier. Do you vary treatment?
I start out with sort of in-hive strip, or I've used Hop Guard. I've used it all. This past 2 years, I've used Apivar per instruction, starting in after I get my honey off, and do that up until whatever the time period is, and take that off. It starts oxalic. Then, I know of people doing 5 treatments or 4 treatments 5 days apart and that kind of stuff. I just, man alive. I believe I treated mine. When I pull the strips out, I treated them. I usually try to treat them about September the 1st, then at Thanksgiving, and then maybe right before Christmas. And then, the ones that are alive. I lose my bees in the fall, and I used to, occasionally I kind of made fun of people that in that survey that let their bees starve, but I've done that. Everybody's done that. Forget about one or just not keep an eye on it, this and that, many reasons. But I keep enough honey. I'm feed them to where they're going to have enough honey. I don't lose them from starvation. But if I can get them to Christmas with treatment, then I'm pretty well home free. If I lose them after that, it's now I just found one 2 weeks ago that was empty, and it had been, I had fed it, still had some honey in it. They just went away. There's a handful of dead bees in it, not much, but rare for me to lose one this time of year.
And you said it earlier, so you would probably attribute that to queen failure or queen
I probably
issues,
would.
queen issues,
yes.
queen issues.
Yes, I would. I think that's, and I mentioned that, I think that's an area that we really haven't educated new beekeepers well enough about. And I don't know enough about it either. I've been doing it a long time, but we don't stress that enough. I mean, they don't know when they got a problem. They don't know how to recognize a problem or rectify it for that matter. But, once you get into laying workers and that point, stuff, then it's pretty much history for that one. It's not worth the effort.
Well, it's pretty telling that we call it queen issues instead of identifying what those queen issues are. That just means
that does speak to something. You're right, for sure. So, but I'm going to treat mine again with oxalic before they start brooding much. Right now, the cluster's so damn tight. I don't want to treat them right now. I'm going to wait on a couple of days where we get 60 or so, and get them spread out a little bit and blast them again before summer, before brood season. So that'll be 4 times for me in a year with the oxalic, and I do. I started to use Apistan again this year. I hadn't used it in years, but it was a pretty good miticide. Just the resistance and stuff was horrible with it. I mean, you couldn't use it for 1 year. So
no formic. You don't use formic at all?
I have used formic. I have used formic. Yeah, and all my bees came out of the box and got on top or underneath it.
That gets rough.
No, it is rough. I have not used Formic Pro. It's supposed to be better for that.
It ain't much better.
Okay.
It works good, but it's rough on the bees. Rough.
Oh yeah, I used some when it first came out. I used some Formic and I cooked them. Boy, I really cooked them. And our weather is kind of unpredictable, and I mean, not unpredictable, but we just like in September it can be 93 degrees, and so when are you going to put the Formic in? I mean, yeah. So I ain't, but I did use it, and I think it is effective, and I proved that with sticky boards. But I killed bees and queens, and I ran them out of the box, and I mean, I went one time and I'd had 3 on a stand. The first box, they were all up on top, the metal box, and it was hot. And the other 2 were underneath the box, under the bottom board. I don't know. It's just too hard. The timing is just too hard on it.
Yeah. One thing's for sure, if you kill all the bees, you don't have any mites.
You don't have any mites. No, 0 mites. That's right. It's very effective.
Thanks, Doug. Thank you for that.
How was the hop guard? What was your experience with it?
I didn't give it a fair try, I don't think. I got some as a sample. I got to talking to one of the guys at EAS a couple of years ago, and I was kind of poo-pooing it, and or I was asking him too many questions. He said, well, just take it and try it. So he gave me some. So I don't think I gave it a fair shake. I kind of like the natural product, I mean, that's pretty tantalizing, pretty interesting and appealing, I might say. But I just didn't think it did any good. I put some sticky boards under, after treatment, and I don't believe it killed me in mine. I'll just tell you the truth.
Did you treat it more than once or just one treatment?
I believe I did both. I did a couple of times.
Okay.
And I ran out of material, and I didn't like it good enough to buy any. To be honest with you, so I can't make a real judgment on it. Sticky boards didn't show me much might fall post treatment.
Thank you.
I've done oxalic when Randy Oliver started talking about the dribble. I did that. I just don't like putting liquid on bees. I mean, I just don't like that. It just doesn't appeal to me. I know they'll lick it off and do all that stuff, but I never got into that. It's messy. I think that concept sort of died out. The dribble, oxalic dribble. I think the oxalic's it's a good miticide.
What do you use to vaporize?
Oxalic.
Right. What do you have, like one in wands, or how you do it?
Yeah, I got one from John Oliver. You know him?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
He makes a knockoff. I think he's out of business. I heard that. He makes a knockoff. It looks just like the Oxyvap or whatever it is. I think I paid $100. There you go. There you go. That's pretty cool. I started off with a wand, and yeah, that's a piece of crap. I had a cheap one. I had a Chinese job. I mean, it was cheap, and it wouldn't lay flat. It's just hard to work with. It had a little thing that you laid on the front porch there that's supposed to stabilize it, but that didn't really work all that well. And you didn't know what it was touching in there, and you're putting something pretty hot in there. And I didn't set one on fire, but I've heard of it. So
yeah, I've heard of folks cooking their queens and stuff like that.
Yeah, you can't see what it's touching. So I got away from the wand. I used it a good bit. It'll vaporize the crystals, but it's there's a lot of downsides to that. And I did hear about people setting wax on fire in them and stuff, but I didn't have that misfortune. But that vapor is just so easy. Once you get the hole in there, I just zap them. I got a thing I hooked to my truck, a inverter, and just go right on. It still takes a little time, but it's you read, I can treat 20 in 10 minutes or something. I can't do that, but I can do it pretty quick. By the time you load it, unload it, fill your cups up, do that stuff. I mean, it's more time than that, but it's about the easiest thing you can do right now, I think, except strips, put them in and forget them. You got to take them out. But I like it, and I've done some, I have done some alcohol washes after treatment on them, and a lot of times just find no mites. So I think it's very effective.
If someone could share where they picked theirs up at, Greg, if you could, or I believe Gov, that's your name?
Yeah, I bought mine from Saponi Creek just because I try to buy everything from Dave. He'll give you as good a deal as any. Do y'all do business with him?
I don't know him, but
yeah, I knew you wouldn't. I meant the Johnson County guy.
Oh yeah.
Oh yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That Pony Creek over at Rocky Mountain. That's where I bought mine at. It'll be the same price you buy it anywhere else, and you get the pleasure of talking to Dave and Frank. So it's worth that.
I bought mine from Johnny O's. And I think Doug just said he went out of business.
Yeah, I don't quote me, but I heard that. and I'm not surprised. He was pretty well overwhelmed with orders, I think. And it started, it got bigger than he wanted it to, I think. But don't,
it's a good device and it's a lot cheaper. So, and I've enjoyed mine. So, yeah.
I hadn't had a better problem with it. I think there's somebody else making one now, a knockoff. I saw it on.
Can you hold yours up again for us to see, if you don't mind? There you go. Thank you, Greg. Thank you.
Give me just a minute. I'll be right back.
Yes, sir.
Ashton, if you want to take the presentation down so that he can see, so we can see when Doug brings his back.
Nice.
Sorry.
Damn, y'all a lot uglier than I thought y'all were.
Yeah.
Why do you think I keep my camera off?
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate that.
See, I took a different approach to the vaporizer. I just bought 2 of the Kellys, and I get one going and then set up the next one. And time it's done, I'm moving to the next hive.
Yeah.
Run it all off the same battery.
Yeah, that's what I need to do because as many as I have, it would help me a whole lot time-wise.
And I know the problems with it, so I make sure there's nothing that's going to burn when I stick it in. If I hit something, it comes out.
But it runs off a battery, right, John?
Yes.
Yeah, the battery. But now the
Thank you,
John
Gov. Thank you.
It has to be AC current. The one Gov's holding up here is AC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's another.
The Oxyvape's AC, but you've never had it. It works on your you bring a generator, did you say, or a converter?
I use a converter off my truck battery.
Thank you, Gov.
An inverter.
Don't get technical on us, Gov. Inverter, converter, they're all
one of them inverters.
All these other rednecks are from Johnson County. They don't know the difference.
It's all the same, ain't it?
Of course, we don't in Nash County either, so.
Well, if there's any more questions anybody got?
The only thing I was about on the treatment, I don't know that you have to do 5 times in 4 weeks, or I don't remember what the formula is or anything like that, but I believe multiple treatment. I believe that the oxalic acid in past couple of years and in the future 2 years will improve success, overwintering particularly. Going into winter with mite, a lot of mites is just a death sentence. So, and I appreciate people that don't treat. I hate putting stuff in my beehives. I mean, none of us, nobody on this panel here wants to put a damn chemical in the beehive. Nobody does. Unless you're nuts. But I kind of want to keep them alive, and I'm not good enough to do it any other way. And I sure as heck don't put people down for trying to do it another way. I admire them if they can do it, but it's out of my reach for some reason. Maybe I'm not smart enough, but
now I do have a question. This is probably opinion related. Do you believe in the mite resistant bee?
Yes, I do. I believe that's the wave of the future. Well, let me say, maybe it's a pipe dream of the future. Open mated species is makes that so damn tough.
Yep.
So yes, I mean, I think there's some research that shows that there is some mite resistance, and I mean, it depends on what you call mite resistance. I mean, Asian bees have learned to live with them. Russian bees learn to live with the mite. So
true.
There's some connect that symbiotic or something, they can exist together. And I don't think that's resistance necessarily. It's something, some genetic makeup that allows them to do that. So I don't know that we'll ever have a bee that the mite will run from. I don't know, but that would be ideal. But I do kind of believe in perpetuating research toward, I guess you say, mite resistant bees.
They've adapted to them anyway. Yes, sir.
Well, the ankle biters and up in Indiana or Purdue or wherever, that's not resistance. The bees just learned how to kill them. And I mean, that works too. That would work too. But I don't know how close we would be to some kind of genetic modification to make a bee truly mite resistant.
Just let them.
I like the concept, certainly. If we had that, we wouldn't need the chems. So, but I don't know when that'll ever happen. Like I say, an open-mated species, unless you live out on a rock somewhere in the middle of the ocean, it's pretty hard to control genetically.
I think we're talking about coexisting and not resistance.
Yeah.
Also, I want to thank you for an outstanding program tonight. And I also want to put my mouth in here, my opinion, which means nothing to anybody but me. You can't just put a lot of chemicals in your hive, light or small, without causing harm to your queen. And that's just my opinion, doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. I think it probably hurts them all to some degree, but I mean, the mother of them all, you can't afford to mess her up. So, I agree. We got enough problems with queens anyway.
Thanks again, Doug.
Oh, you're welcome. I hope you guys enjoyed it.
Yeah, Doug. Thank you again. We really appreciate it.
Jason, I think, is Jason Bird. Is that his name?
Yes, that's me. I'm here.
Yeah. Thank you for your contact and your invitation. I didn't say that in the beginning, so I appreciate the opportunity to do it. And I believe you got me down for June. And is that true?
I got you down for whenever you want to be here. I appreciate you coming out. And
I think I emailed you that I could do June, whatever your meeting date is in June. And
yes,
it would
sir.
be kind of a similar, but it's just more technique about the actual making the nuke up and the whys and wherefores, and a little more explanation about the brood break and a few things. It's not some of the. It's all kind of related, but it's a different program. So I encourage you to come back and we'll talk about it some more. Okay?
I'm definitely looking forward to it.
I'll be back, Doug. Doug, do one more thing for me.
Yeah.
Tell Doug Galloway to be nice to his committee members.
Yeah, you're on there, I believe, aren't you? I just talked to Doug the other day. I actually had lunch with him.
He'll get a kick out of that if you tell him that.
Yeah, I'll tell him.
I've enjoyed working with him. But he's a tough guy now. He
is.
Man, you talk about by the book. But,
yeah, he runs a tight ship, that's for sure.
He runs a tight ship. And it messed me. I think I messed him up because Chris and now my mind's going blank. But anyhow, the two girls that work. What's the other girl's name?
Chris is all I can think of.
Yeah, I can't think of the other girl's name. Anyway, both of them, I think, kind of do everything Doug says, and then I got in the middle of it, and Doug asked me to do something, and I tried to do